Hello and welcome in to this week's edition of the Walkthrough. I am your host, intern Joe Machika. South Carolina, pretty big weekend in South Carolina sports. Gamecock baseball sweeping number 3 Vanderbilt. Very big win there over at Founders Park. Excuse me for that. Very big win. They win 8-3 in game 1 on Saturday, obviously because Friday got postponed because of the rain here in Columbia. But Gamecock baseball beating Vanderbilt 8-3 in the first game. They go 8-4 in the second one, and then capping off a sweep today against Vandy by a score of 10-2. Really and over there at Founders, like I just mentioned, South Carolina women's basketball also rolling in their 2 tournament games, capping it off with a very big win over North Carolina. I have quotes from Dawn, Malaysia Foley as well on the way, so I'll be sure to talk about that. Gamecock football started practice this week. Spring practice is off and away. We'll talk about some hypotheticals, some storylines going into camp as well. And so then also men's basketball, we can talk a little bit about that as the season rolls on. But appreciate everyone joining us again. SC Mike, yeah, baseball, man. Baseball. We'll start with baseball too. Again, we'll start from the top, I guess. 8-3 in the first one. Really good day from Eli Jones. I was really impressed from what I saw out of Eli Jones. Sweeping the Nerds is always yeah, absolutely. Whenever you can sweep Vanderbilt, it's great. They came into this one really hot. They were a good team. A lot of guys hitting over 300. They hit for contact, and they were for right. Vandy, I mean, they like to play the ball out in front. I mean, at home they have all that turf and stuff, and the turf, it helps them play a lot faster, right? Get on base, bunting, stealing, just kind of fundamental baseball stuff that Vandy likes to do. And give all credit where credit's due. They were good at it until they got to Founders Park. They were in for a rude in the South Carolina Gamecocks. Game 1, again, really good day from Eli Jones, right? I was really impressed with what I saw out of the kid. 6 1/3, 1 hit, 2 runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks. Took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. Lady Gamecocks doing great, William. Yeah, absolutely. That's another big storyline for today. Dawn Staley, they continue to roll, right? The women's basketball team, they're really friggin' good. And I'll talk about them, in a second after we break down the baseball series here real quick. But I mean, Full Wiley was dominant for the women's team. 179 points in 2 games is ridiculous. So again, we'll do a full breakdown of the women's weekend here in a second after we break down the baseball series real quick. But yeah, no, really good weekend from Dawn Staley and her. But again, I'll give them a full segment here in a second. But yeah, no, Eli Jones, back to Eli Jones, again, 6 1/3 innings, took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. Really good stuff out of Eli. Couldn't have, the strong performance from a guy who's been a captain. Lamont Dandy, yeah, the women showed why they're the top seed. I mean, utter domination this weekend. Really utter domination. 10-4. Yeah, I apologize. I don't know how that would mess up. Or 10-4. Yeah, or 10-4. You were talking about the baseball score. Dealing with it here. But yeah, again, back to Eli Jones. Veach came in again a game. Let in Eli's 2 runs that he or 2 runners that he put on the bases. And then looked decent besides the bomb. I mean, good stuff from Veach. Putting out the. I mean, once Veach kind of let in those 2 runs, it was a really big response from the offense. I believe that was where you had the dropped fly ball in center. Vanderbilt, I mean, really good defensive team coming into this one, and then you have 3 errors, I believe it was in game 1, 2 in game 2, and then a couple in game 3 as well. So Vandy's errors just added up this weekend at Founders Park, and it was a hostile environment. I was there for the 2 games yesterday, and man, oh man, was it a great environment. Shout out to everyone who made it out to Founders Park this weekend. It was a really special day yesterday, and as I saw from Twitter and everything coming around the socials today, that it was also a really big day. I do as tradition in Gamecocks, like all of whenever there is a sweep for Gamecock Central or Gamecock baseball, I bring my brooms. I said on Twitter to get the brooms out, get them alive. So the brooms are out again. South Carolina baseball sweeping the number 3 ranked Vanderbilt. So big day. Again, 8-3 in game one, right? Did a really good job of getting to Vandy's bullpen. I think their starter on Fridays, he came in, he was grooving. He had a really good pickoff move early in that first game. And then the offense, again, you just forced them to make errors. They finished three errors in game one. Nobody really had a multi-hit day, but again, Petrie's long fly ball that was dropped in center field was the difference in game one. But good piece of hitting, right? This team, one of the bigger, question marks coming into this, series is, can they bring guys home? And boy, did they ever. Again, scoring a combined 26 runs on the weekend is ridiculous. RL Smith checking in. What's going on, RL? How are we doing tonight? Again, appreciate everyone checking in. Checking in with me here on the walkthrough. Again, breaking down Gamecock baseball's sweep. I got my broom talking about the Gamecock baseball sweep against number 3 Vanderbilt this weekend. But yeah, game one. And Vandy's a really good team too. Yeah, William, great point here. Vandy was a really good team. And again, they didn't have their best weekend of baseball, right? The errors and stuff, I expect them to clean up. And if they tune up the errors and stuff, I still think South Carolina beats them this weekend, just the way that South Carolina played. But again, I think if they tune up the errors, it's not, the 5-run ball game or a 4-run ball game or a 8-run ball game. It's a 3-4, maybe a 2-run ball game. And maybe they get a couple of those to go their way as well. Because, errors add up, especially in conference play. They add up. They make a big difference, especially when you're on the road, because God knows Founders Park was loving some of the errors yesterday and cheering the Gamecocks on through that, making it a hard place to play. Again, it really is tough to play at Founders Park if you're a visiting team, and they made it certainly a tough one this weekend. So, again, shout out to everyone who made it out this weekend. Again, certainly helped with the errors, right? Again, made an impact. And Vandy just wasn't themselves this weekend, even though despite being a good team. William, appreciate you checking in again. But yeah, so then you go to the second game, right? 8-4, Dylan Eskew, solid again. Didn't get the win, but he was solid again. 3 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, one of them earned. Ty Good came in to get the win. But the leading story from game 2 in this series was, Ethan Petrie. Are you kidding? 3 for 3, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, and a walk with 2 home runs. The kid played out of his mind yesterday. He was playing DH. And I can cut to a quote. I've got a couple clips of Coach Kingston talking about some of these lineup changes, but Petrie was playing at DH. You had a guy like Blake Jackson who had been hitting pretty well to this point, but and Kennedy Jones, you also had him out and left. You just optioned Tyler Causey or Gavin Costas for the bench. When you're rotating guys out, and then also Petrie he banged up his knee in that Ole Miss series, right? So it's going to be tough. But here's Coach Kingston on some of the.
Jackson was out there and right. Is that more of precautionary with Petrie's knee, or do you want to keep DHing Ethan?
No, Ethan has played great out in the outfield this year. So this is not a slight to Ethan Petrie's defense. It's just with the knee banged up, not 100%. Just thought it was the wise decision to not push it, not risk any more injury, because last thing you want is Ethan Petrie hobbling around all year. So once we feel like he's at 100%, he'll probably be back out there. But Jackson's playing really well. Jones is playing really well. Brewer's playing really well. Look, we have some good decisions we have to make. You saw the Cassis-Causey kind of platoon based on their left-right splits. Both guys played really well this weekend. Causey hit the homer yesterday. Cassis hit the homer today. So we're just continuing to learn how to use each guys and put them in a position to have their best chance for success. So the longer we play, the more we'll figure that stuff out about pitchers and hitters.
Any more questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm loving what I'm hearing from Coach Kingston there, right? Again, using that DH between Causey and Costas for that left-right split, but now you're using it because Ethan Petrie's banged up, and boy, did it work for you. Kennedy Jones had a great weekend offensively. Blake Jackson was great on the bases. I think it was just perfect execution from Coach Kingston with the lineup card. Obviously, talked with his staff like you mentioned, but really, really, really good stuff out of the guys over there at Founders. Again, from top to bottom in this series, coaching staff, bullpen was great. Starting pitching was great. The offense woke up. Really, really good job. Just again, top to bottom for South Carolina for this baseball program this weekend. So great job to everyone there. But Ty Good again, he got the win. 2 and 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts and a walk. Really good from Ty Good. Again, another guy who could potentially be a starter for South Carolina. Going forwards has looked great out of the bullpen. And I think, that's kind of been one of the requirements for South Carolina and to start on this baseball roster, right? To be a starter, you have to have success on the bullpen. Tyler Pitcher, and again, we'll get to that in a second. Tyler Pitcher was great. He looked great out of the bullpen, made his debut start today, and intended to win. But again, just final thoughts on the 8-4 win in game 2 yesterday. I mean, Ethan Petrie just stepped up. I mean, it's exactly what you needed from him. A veteran leader on this team. I mean, he's only a sophomore, but to be saying he's a veteran leader is crazy. But yeah, huge day from Petrie in game 2. It's exactly what you need to win games at Founders Park. You need your playmakers to step up. This offense had been dormant, so. And I think by game 2, right, you knew you were on the cusp. After game 1, you didn't really hit a home run, but game 2, you certainly filled up the stat sheet and made an impact. And I mean, that was just kind of the offense that you looked for, right? And so get into game 3. You go game 3, 10-2. It was an offensive explosion from the jump, right? I think they carried the mojo in from yesterday. 6 runs in the first inning. They were hot, ready to hit. Another Vandy Ayers scores 2, and then Gavin Casas finally got his revenge, right? Shout out to Casas for hitting he hit a bomb. It was a tank. Nick Babb says, I wonder, will the sweep and the weekday win earlier this week, will they put Carolina back in the top 25? I think after this sweep, you have to. Nick, I think they took care of the midweek, and that's part of the job, right? That's part of the job requirements to make it to Omaha and to make it deep into the SEC and have success in college baseball. That's winning the midweek, right? So Nick, good point there. They took care of it, and they should be ranked by at least somebody. There's a couple different rankings in college baseball, but somebody will have them ranked. I think this sweep was big because Vandy had a lot of momentum coming into this one. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think somebody will have them ranked. I don't know if it'll be unanimous. There might still be a couple teams, but it's also still really early in the season, right? It was just one bad weekend series at Ole Miss. And so we'll see, right? I would expect them to be ranked. So I would agree. Greg says USC is on the path of redemption. Much better to start slow and finish strong than inverse, ironing and fine-tuning those wrinkles. Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Good point here. I think last season we kind of saw that. They kind of peaked a little bit in the midseason, and then, they were just so banged up last season as well. Like, it was really hard to get, anything, on a roll. But if this team, again, knock on wood here, stays healthy, look out, because I think, the way that this team is really narrowing down their struggles is kind of as low as it'll get is kind of what you saw at Ole Miss last week, right? Not bringing as many guys home as you want. And, just really can't hit the baseball, just struggling to hit the baseball. Right. But so I think, and again, you saw that the lowest of lows and the highest of highs for this team in one, about a span of 1 week. Right. You lose to Ole Miss, team that you should have beat. Not one of the better teams in the SEC, but then again, all teams are good in the SEC for baseball. But you lose that one, right? And then you come home, you get a little bit of home cooking, but you're on the road on Tuesday. You're in North Augusta, but you get Vanderbilt at home, and I think that was exactly what this team needed, right? Very, very big weekend series win. Again, the 10-2 win today was huge. Dylan Brewer, Casas hit the 2 bombs today. It was 7 home runs in 2 games, which is crazy. Tyler Pitzer. I do have a clip from Coach Kingston on Tyler Pitzer. Really, really good stuff from the freshman. And I'll play this clip from Coach Kingston real quick, and then I'll give you my thoughts as I pull it up. Yeah, here's Coach Kingston on his freshman pitcher, Tyler Pitzer.
What made you want to go with Tyler today, and what was it that made him so good?
We looked at last Sunday. Obviously, Becker is in consideration to be a weekend starter, but he was so good coming out of the bullpen his last few times that we just thought it's something we want to try maybe for one more week. Give Pitzer a shot. Pitzer's been really good out of the bullpen. And let's see what he looks like as a starter. It was at home, so he didn't have to make his first SEC start on the road. It was a chance to give him a start at home. And if it didn't go well, then Becker would be in there early. And if it did go well, we thought we could get what we got today. So Pitzer was outstanding. His poise was good. His stuff was good. He was competitive, looked like a veteran out there. So I think he did everything you wanted to see out of a pitcher, no doubt about it. 9 strikeouts, 1 walk to a team hitting .330. Couldn't be more impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing, Mark. Same thing, Coach King, right here. Tyler Pitzer struck out half the guys he faced. 9 strikeouts, and again, 6 and 1/3 innings of work, I believe. Electricity out of your freshman on the bump, and again, he lured it a little bit to Matthew Becker. Possibly getting the nod if things continue to work out for him, going into next weekend, but it's still really early, right? I think Pitzer, certainly put himself on the map today. That's for darn sure. I mean, this team, I guess, I've been saying this going, kind of throughout the season. This team really has like 5 or 6 starters. If you look at Ty Good, Roman Kimball, Matthew Becker, Eli Jones, Dylan Askew, Eddie Copper can start. Garrett Gainey started, prepared for the season like a starter. And coming out of the bullpen, you kind of have to be able to log it. I think, Chris Veach could give you a start. I don't know if he'd be able to, go 6-7 innings, but, certainly could give you a start. So now with Tyler Pitzer coming in, doing what he did today, man, gives you a 6 starter, and it's exactly what you want. And knock on wood, pray for all the good graces and good karma you can get for this baseball team, because the bullpen and stuff is really starting to figure it out. By allowing 9 runs, long weekend. But allowing 9 runs to the 3rd ranked team in the country is ridiculous. So shout out to the pitching staff, shout out to the coaching staff for getting it done. I think, they were really good in terms of situationally where they wanted to pull guys. Coach King, again, I think, with Veach, they had to bring Garrett Gainey in for game number 1 for that save. Didn't pitch a whole lot. Again, I think he only pitched for 1 out in game number 1, but then I think it was a good decision, right? And for all we knew, we were like, all right, why are you wasting Garrett Gainey in this first one? But I mean, they had a bigger plan. Gainey comes in, 2nd save in game 2, really, 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 really good. That was, I mean, the video obviously of him, closing that game went viral. Of his celebration coming off the mound, opening the door and doing what he did was really, really, really fun to see. And Garrett Gainey's one of those guys, right? Brings the fire, throws gas. So really big highlight for the Gamecocks team, and especially this bullpen, because that's another kid that they, love to see having success. Just, he's like a fighter pilot almost, and you kind of want that out of your closer, right? Just to be cocky, ready to go, throwing, let's go, like Spurs up kind of thing, just yelling, that type of stuff. You want that out of Garrett Gainey. But I think obviously his 2nd save was a little bit more impressive. He went 2 1/3 innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks, no earned runs, legit stuff from Garrett Gainey. Again, he's really, 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 really darn good for the South Carolina team. And again, Becker, I do want to shout out Matthew Becker again today. He looked great. 2 2/3 innings. Again, Tyler Pitzer did most of the work. RL says wild thing type. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Wild thing, Garrett Gainey. It's got a nice ring to it, and I think, certainly fits. And a lot of the guys on the team would certainly agree. He is a wild man, and that's exactly what you want. 2 freshmen just come in, shove, just throwing gas. So the fact that he throws, the high heat, and gives you all that energy, it's exactly what you want for South Carolina baseball. And again, Matthew Becker played great today. Again, he's still competing for that Sunday starter roles, as well as Roman Kimball. We'll see how that, pans itself out. Kimball had a couple walks last weekend where, wasn't his best performance in the world, but, he's not out of the running yet, I don't think. But Becker looked great today. 2 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, continuing to add 12 strikeouts. I'm sure the strikeout board people were busy. And again, putting a bow on things for Gamecock baseball, you finished the weekend with 7 home runs in 2 of the last 3 games, right? I believe. So really, really, really good stuff out of the guys over there. The offensive explosion is one thing King talked about and in his post game. But again, we have more stuff to talk about on this show real quick. But the offensive explosion was great. It's exactly what you need, and having as many RBIs as you did was fantastic. It's the home runs are alive and well. This is exactly what you thought this team was going to be coming into the season. It's awoken, right? So now you just need to find, if you're South Carolina, what you need to find is, how do you make this consistently, right? How do you do this consistently? So we'll see. And obviously, again, season rolls on. So you got Presbyterian before you go on the road next weekend to Alabama or Athens, I believe. I can't remember. I'm pulling it up. Let's see. Gamecock baseball. I had this earlier. Schedule. Apologies as we pull this thing up. Wi-Fi. Okay. So South Carolina, they're on the road next weekend against Alabama. Okay, so they are in Tuscaloosa next weekend. So on the road against Alabama. That series starts Thursday. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series in Tuscaloosa. So they'll be playing at 8 p.m. In Tuscaloosa on SEC Network on Thursday night, SEC Network Plus on Friday. Same goes for the game on Saturday. But those games are all in Tuscaloosa. You match up with the Tide pretty well. Alabama coming into it. Let's see. Trying to pull up their stats. And we'll have more on Alabama this week, obviously, on Gamecock Central. But again, big show here tonight. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Plenty more to cover. Still got Gamecock spring football, but I do want to talk about the women's basketball team as well. Darius says if South Carolina women's basketball plays like they did the last two games, nobody is going to beat them. Yeah, exactly. South Carolina women's basketball, again, doing what they do best, dominating as usual. Full Wiley, 20 points off the bench as they cruise past UNC. It was one of the best halves of basketball that South Carolina played all year in that first half against North Carolina. Really, really, really good stuff. Just all-around execution, right? You were 8 of 10 shooting three when you entered the half. Now, granted, in the second half, at halftime, I tweeted, you got to keep the foot on the gas in case the shooting dries up. And sure enough, the shooting dried up, but they kept it going, right? You didn't need to play your starters in the tail end of that one. And granted, again, like I say on every time we do this show, I think everyone on this South Carolina women's team can start anywhere else in the country. They're that talented. We know this. But so again, when your bench players are essentially starters, you're going to find some success even when you're not shooting the basketball well. So as long as you kept the foot on the gas, they did well. They were gonna find success, and I think that's what they did. Right. Being able to cruise past North Carolina by a final score of 88 to 41. And again, capturing your 10th straight appearance to the Sweet 16. Electric stuff. This is dynasty things, and their defense really, really led the way in this one. I'm talking like they held North Carolina at 23.8% shooting from the floor. Right, it's electric stuff, and 19 points. I think it was 19 points. They allowed 19 points in the first half. I mean, it was ridiculous. I can remember like looking at the score. I was running some errands during the first half. And I checked out, back down, got home, checked the score, and I'm like, it is 55 to 16 right now. And just the way that they executed, they scored 28 points in each quarter. RL says they look like an all-star team today against a good UNC team. They are not MTSU. Yeah, no kidding. It's you're in North Carolina again. So they talked about playing North Carolina tough. I believe I have that clip. Or I'll pull it up because they played North Carolina earlier in the season, and it was a closer game. It was on the road in Tobacco Road. And so, I believe the motivation Dawn kind of used for this game was, they played you hard the first time. And this is what I'm talking about, right? When somebody plays you close, as you kind of have to take it as a loss, right? They played you tough, right? So now you're going to have to go out there, learn the lessons that you did from that first one and take it into the next one. You're almost too good to right? So they're taking the first matchup where, they almost lost, but they didn't. And then they take it and double up their opponent in the next game, next time they meet them up, right? It's crazy. And again, the defense led the way. Forcing a team to shoot 23% is craziness. Just utter craziness. 16% from the three. And then 57% from the line. Obviously, you got to make free throws, but 23.8% from the field. That's ridiculous. That's just nonsense. This team's defense was really, 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 really good. Again, led by Malaysia Fulwiley. I have a quote from her on just getting it going. Really good question from one of our interns, Annie Poteet with Gamecock Central. So here's Fulwiley on just getting it going.
Gamecock Central. Malaysia, you were just all over the place, offense, defense. Just tell me a little bit about all your gameplay today and what you wanted to get going into the game.
When I step on the court, my main focus is usually defense. So once I'm playing great defense and I get good steals, I feel like my offense usually flows and just comes to me. So I was just excited I was out there. I got to be out there and just get some stops on the defensive side and do some great things on the offensive side as well.
Let's go to Chapel.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very big game from Fulwiley offensively. Really, really, really good stuff out of her. Finished with 20 again. Ridiculous stuff out of the freshman. And if this is what it's going to be like for the next 4 years, I think Gamecock fans are going to be just fine. And it's Dawn Staley's guards. Really the recipe to success here. And having Cardoso back, it's just an added benefit, right? Cardoso had herself a day too, double, 12 points, 10 rebounds. Welcome back, Camila Cardoso. It's crazy. They got one of the best, arguably the best player in the country. And again, I think, probably should be Angel Reese getting a little bit of attention. And that's something that I don't want to piss the G Hive off or the fams off too much with the whole Cardoso thing. But again, she, is in the running, I guess we'll say, for the National Player of the Year. And to get her back was only an added benefit. But, South Carolina, you beat North Carolina 65-58 when you played them earlier this season, right? And then you go out there and do that. It's crazy. They're going to be Martin. Who do they play next week, or who do they play next? It says currently ESPN's currently telling me TBD. So I think that game, it still depends on the game tonight. I believe if somebody can help me out too there, I would appreciate it. Yeah, Martin, they're going to be better next year. And it's crazy. It's crazy to say that because this team is 34-0 and they've outscored opponents at a ridiculous rate this season. This is unfathomable. This is some of you have to appreciate it while it's here, right? And I think, credit to South Carolina, the Gamecock community and South Carolina fans, because nobody has taken this women's basketball run for granted. Nobody within this community has said, oh, it's just, they're good, great, awesome. No, it's everyone admires what they're doing. And again, it seems to be year after year that they just keep getting better and better. I don't know. Even after last year, it's they lost all the freshies, but then, the attitude at South Carolina was, and they have more coming in. It's going to be just fine. Right. So it's crazy. It really is some of the things that this team is able to accomplish. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Dawn Staley again. Recapping, here we are, Gamecock Central, recapping South Carolina's 88-41 victory over North Carolina, the women's basketball team taking down North Carolina in round 2. And again, they walloped the 16 seed Presbyterian, if you could imagine, 91-39 in game 1. It's ridiculous. So RL says Oklahoma or Indiana. Okay, so that's who they have next. Martin. Again, I did not have the bracket up in front of me. I should have had that up. But RL, appreciate you helping us tonight. But I'm almost at a loss for words because I don't know if there's many more nice things to say about the South Carolina team. Tessa Johnson also played well. I know I'm forgetting her. She often gets swept over a little bit in terms of where all the attention goes. But Tessa Johnson played great, really, really, really good off the bench. For South Carolina too. It's crazy because we're seeing another almost another D Henny or a Raven Johnson and Tahina Pau dynamic. Just the way Dawn has her two guards, the shooting guard and the point guard. They're basically 2 point guards, right? That can shoot, get to the ring, and score, right? They're all really, really, really good. And so we're seeing the next generation of, the next two guards up, and Full Wiley and Johnson, right? Because you have Raven Johnson and Tahina Paopao dominating now. And I mean, that's just scratching the surface with this team. But really, 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 and Breezy Hall too. You essentially run three guards, and you can run it a little bit slower too. But yeah, Tessa Johnson again, 11 points, 3 rebounds. Let's see. No, it says Full Wiley had an assist as well, 3 blocks as well for Full Wiley. That's crazy as a point guard. Let's see. Sanaya Fagan picked up 8 points. Chloe Kitts, 12 of her own. Camila Cardoso, again, 12 points. Ashton Swatkins, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist in today's game. So, yeah, the winner of Oklahoma or Indiana faces the Gamecocks. Yep. So that'll be interesting. Again, I need to do a little bit more scouting report on both of those teams. Obviously, the Gamecocks. Lay is now hot from 3. Yes, exactly, RL. Yeah. Malaysia Full Wiley is, she shot the ball really well from 3 today. 4 of 7 from 3. So it's crazy. Dawn, this was a team that, traditionally has been, the bench was crazy. Yeah. Lamont, yeah, absolutely. The bench is, and these are the guys, these are the women that are going to carry the team next season, right? These aren't the starters. These aren't the ones that are what is RL. I don't know, man. I don't know. Realistically, if I had to divvy it out, is I think poor shooting and then just lack of focus on the defensive end. Bird to fly. What's going on, man? Appreciate you checking in. But yeah, RL in Bird to Fly, we were talking about the women's team again. If you missed any of the show already, if you're just joining us, I talked about the baseball series already. You can always check that out on the Gamecock Central YouTube page. The show will be live, obviously, or it'll be uploaded after the show closes. So yeah, just broke down the baseball series, but currently talking about the women's basketball team. But RL, their biggest weakness, I think, the shooting would have to dry up, and then you kind of just lose focus on the, defensive end of the floor. Just kind of have a shooter that kind of goes off. I think, Caitlin Clark matchup isn't going to be good. If you lose focus in a matchup against a caliber player like Caitlin Clark, I'm not saying that South Carolina can't handle Caitlin Clark, because I know they can. And I know that, the scouting reports and stuff, but kind of what you saw last year when they played Iowa, similar to that, right? You kind of lost focus. You weren't as disciplined on the defensive end. And then she was just also lights out. So, I think you needed a little bit of combination of that. But yeah, and again, too, what South Carolina did today gives me no reason to believe that they're going to lose focus on the defensive end whatsoever. Right, holding a team to 15 of 63 from the field is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous stuff. They were in single digits for 2 quarters of this game. It's so their biggest weakness for me is if they, don't bring the same defensive intensity as they did today. And that's, hard to do, to not, bring a smidge of that kind of energy. But yeah, I really don't think there is one. If offensively, I think it is if the shooting dries up, and then Cardoso just has, a weird matchup, a wonky matchup. But then again, you also have, that's what you have Ashton Watkins for. That's what you have Chloe Kitts for, to kind of slash and dash a little bit. So there's so many roles on this team that fill the needs of whatever Dawn Staley's basketball mind can ponder. And it's really good. They play together, and they play really, really good basketball well. But yeah, Lamont, do want to talk about the bench too. They combined 33 points off the bench. Chloe Kitts coming off the bench for this one. I'm sorry, not 30. 40. 42 off the bench, 42 or 43. But yeah, Chloe Kitts, Sanaya Fagan, Full Wiley, and Tessa Johnson just absolutely dominating. Off the bench, Tessa Johnson again is going to. I can't wait to see next year, right? And the teams that are run by Tessa Johnson and Malaysia Full Wiley, because again, they're just freshmen. It's crazy. It really is mind-boggling stuff, because the women who are dominating these games, the players who are dominating these games for Dawn Staley, right, are just freshmen. They don't need to play all of free throws. Yeah, free throw you do need. Yeah, I do. Lamont, you do need to do better at the free throw line. You were great. You were good. 15 of 19, right? You only missed. I believe Fulwiley missed one, and then Watkins missed one, and Bree Hall missed two. Okay, so yeah, you could be a little bit better at free throws. If that's I'm guessing that's in terms of what their biggest weakness is. But yeah, I would agree. Yeah, if they start missing free throws too, it's going to kill them, right? Because free points, and if they go cold from the free throw line, teams are going to start picking up on that and just fouling them a little bit more. And because we know free throw shooting, it is sometimes a game to game basis. Sometimes it's more or less a run kind of thing. So if they can continue to get on runs, go for it. RL says, I love that the women's college game is full of stars across the nation. Absolutely. And it makes it exciting too. And I think, coverage in the WNBA needs to, kind of focus on the college. And that's a whole different conversation for a different day. But there are stars across the country. You look up at Notre Dame, they've got a lot of stars as well. Iowa, Caitlin Clark, what she's doing, brings so many eyeballs to this game. And I think she's going to do the same thing for the WNBA, and that's going to be great as well. But so many stars across the country. And it's going to make up for really good matchups, right? I think, obviously I think there isn't as much parity in women's basketball as there is men quite yet. So there aren't as many, first round upsets as there are in the men's, but I think, it's getting there, and there's going to be some really, really, really exciting games in this tournament. It's not going to be, two teams just waltz to the end, and South Carolina's got to go through Notre Dame, and LSU has to go through Iowa, right? So really, really, and it just overall exciting tournament. I think the way that Dawn has been dominating, and as soon as when they get to Notre Dame and the previous matchup in Paris and Notre Dame having won the ACC tournament, I think it was really, really just domination from start to finish again from the Gamecock women's basketball team. Playtime S, how do you think the Gamecocks performed against Vandy this weekend in baseball? I think they performed really, really, really well. And I broke down each game to game earlier on in the stream, but just quick thoughts. Again, breezing back over it. Again, if you're just joining us, South Carolina baseball sweeping Vanderbilt 8-3, 8-4, and then 10-2 at Founders Park. Unbelievable stuff. Just really, really, really just solid effort from both the pitching staff and the hitting staff, and the coaching staff as well. Really good in situations. I think there weren't pitchers left in too long. I don't think there were any defensive changes that were unnecessary. And the way that they moved Kingston moved Petrie around, it was great. And moving him to the DH, I think gave you some more flexibility in left or in right field. Not to say that Petrie can't do it, but he's dealing with a bum knee, right? So he's with the bum knee. You move him to the DH, let him figure it out. And boy, did he. 3 of 3 yesterday in the second game yesterday, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, two of those runs, home runs. And then he also tallied himself a walk in all 4 plate appearances. So helping the team out in all 4. Tygood got the win. Tygood pitched really good yesterday. SQ was solid. Eli Jones, really, really darn good. Took a no-hitter into the 7th in game 1 yesterday. Really, really, really solid stuff. And then Garrett Gainey, I think, is one of things to kind of pinpoint this weekend on. Looked great. I think, especially yesterday, got saved number 1. Right, came in for the 1 out yesterday when Feach got into a little bit of hot water there. In game 2, but we saw what he did in game 2. It was, game 2 came in. I think it was Ty Good. But anyways, Gainey went 2 1/3 inning, 4 strikeouts, no walks, no earned runs. And then we saw, getting production from Casas and Causey is huge as well. I agree, 100%. And great for Gavin. I'm happy Gavin got his revenge because again, last year not as much. I think last year he played better. Or played pretty well. I can't remember off the top of my head how he played last year against Vanderbilt, but certainly got his revenge again this season with that home run today. Moonshot, Dylan Brewer with the bomb as well, looking great. But Causey's great, and I think those are your two first basemen, right? Those are the two guys that are going to play first base, and you know matchup wise, depending on what pitcher wise, and I think they're both. That see them both hitting well is great because again you have options, and I think Blake Jackson hitting well gives you options. Kennedy Jones hitting well gives you options, right? So there's a lot of different things that you can kind of tweak for this baseball team, but what they showed this weekend was all of it. I think it was the highest of highs that they've gotten to this season, right? And sweeping number 3 Vanderbilt, a team that was coming in hot with a lot of batting average too, right? Hit a lot of guys on this team hitting 300. Really talked about team. The one question mark I guess coming in was their pitching, but and South Carolina took advantage of it. Really, really good weekend offensively. But yeah, baseball, unbelievable stuff. And again, if you missed, I broke down I went game by game earlier on in the show. So if you missed it, rewind a little bit or check out the rest of the stream as soon as we wrap things here. It'll be posted on YouTube, and then I will obviously have the audio form on the Gamecock Central Spotify and Apple Music channel in podcast form. If you're a podcast listener or missed some of the show, want to check it out, feel free to do that on Gamecock Central on both Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast to. Bird Two Fly says, do you think the freshman on the mound today gets to start next weekend as well? Yeah, this is a good question. This is a really good question because Matthew Becker obviously going back or getting back into the starter role. He's looked great out of the bullpen. King said he looked great out of the bullpen today and has looked great out of the bullpen going into it. But so the plan today was Pitzer until things kind of went south, and then Becker, and then Pitzer just shoved, man. He shoved. Looked great coming out of the bullpen. And again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I think, coming out of the bullpen is you're having to come out of the bullpen and doing well, I think is kind of a trait for some of these starters at South Carolina because pitchers look great coming out of the bullpen. And then, gets his starting debut here. 6 1/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, no earned, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. Again, Tyler Pitzer struck out half the guys he faced. So Bird to Fly, to answer your question, I think he will probably get the nod, but I'm not 100% certain. Right? I think he will probably get the nod. I think you give Becker 1 more week. But you're also on the road, right? You're in Tuscaloosa, and that's one thing King mentioned today as well. He's like, you were home. Pitcher could make that start in that spot because you've got everyone behind you. You've got your whole squad, your whole home fans behind you. So I think he was comfortable putting Pitcher in that spot. I think now Bird to Fly. To answer your question twice, I guess, I don't, now that I think about it, I don't think that Pitcher will start next weekend. I think it'll be Matthew Becker simply because it's on the road. But, you never know. I think after what he showed today was really good. So I think that, there's certainly a chance. But since next week is on the road in Tuscaloosa, I think they go with Becker. But my opinion's probably going to change in like an hour or so. Or, later this week too. It'll certainly be something to watch going into it. And, SQ was also pretty good too. So I don't know. If you have the option to start Becker on Saturday, but I like what they're doing on Saturday with SQ and Ty Good going in. A little bit of buddy cop action on the mound. And it was good stuff out of both those guys too. But yeah, so we've hit around the 45-minute mark. So I'm going to hit some ads real quick. If there's anything you guys want me to touch on before the show wraps, let me know. We'll get to it before we wrap things up here. But, again, pretty big show again tonight. Appreciate everyone tuning in as always. But let's pull up the ads here real quick. Let's talk to you guys about our first sponsor of the night. It's our good friends over at Liberty Tax. Tax ID is that uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. Tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for a refund, call the tax team at Liberty Tax. They're fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood. Open 9 to 9 on weekdays and 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in, give a call to upload your tax documents. When you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. give them a call to upload your tax documents. Oh, yeah, I said that. So give them a call on your screen right now. And for those listening, 803-462-5576. Once again, on your screen right now. And for those listening, 803-462-5576 for all of your tax needs this tax season. And our show is also brought to you by our good friend, Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. In need of help with your mortgage, call on our good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. He's been in the mortgage industry since 2003, which allows him to help everyone from the first-time home buyer to the complicated and complex jumbo buyer. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance, nothing is more important than a well-thought-out financial strategy. It comes with 5-star customer service. He's even helped out our very own Wes Mitchell and former Gamecock quarterback Perry Worth with the mortgages. So give our guy Clint a call. His number's on your screen right now. And for those listening above us, he's always above us on our GC Live programming, 803-771-6933. Once again, 803-771-6933. All right. So Martin asks, what do you think the men's basketball team needs to improve on most this offseason? Well, I think they need a dominant big. I think they need somebody who, I think, somebody who can go in the post and move people around. Just kind of a starting big. I think just a big physical big that can play alongside Josh Gray, CMB. Culture, I think they need to continue to build off the culture. I think that was the one thing they had going right, and the one thing that needs to be replicated in years and years into the Lamont Paris era. Whatever you did to get your culture the way it is, it needs to be replicated because it was fantastic throughout the year. But improve on the most. Again, the post presence. I think, you prove that you have guards that can score. You just need a big that can, stand and bang with a lot of the guys in the SEC. And I know that isn't quite your identity for Lamont, and Lamont likes a little slash and dash 4 as well. But, you need a big MFer at center. So that's what you need in the SEC, and I think that's how they improve this offseason. CMB is going to get bigger. They're going to get, bigger, better, faster, stronger. And also shout out, since we're on the topic of the men's basketball team, shout out to the guys, really, really good season. Unfortunate that you lost to Oregon. Jermaine Couisnard dropped 40 points. I think it was his final number. It's ridiculous. It's hard to stop. And, I think Oregon matched up with you a lot like Auburn did. So it's going to be really tough. But again, I think you go get a really just a big badass MFer when it comes to the paint. So you're going to get a little bit of help with that. You showed you can score with your guards. But so just a little bit of help in the transfer portal. And again, I think Josh Gray's a really good 2 to that, and he'll get bigger, he'll get better, he'll get faster, stronger, as well. And, hopefully develop into maybe a starter. But Josh Gray was fantastic coming off the bench. And the last thing I'll say on this men's basketball team, Bert Fly's got a question coming on too. So Hutch, how do you think the women's basketball team did today against North Carolina? They did fantastic. And again, I brought that up, Hutch, after we talked about the baseball team really quickly, but yeah, they were great. It's really hard to say anything bad about this women's basketball team. We talked about some of their weaknesses, and it's if the defense dries up and they lose focus on the defensive end, that could be a problem, right? Could be a real problem. So other than that, I don't think that anything this women's team is going to do, or anything outside of, this team is going to beat themselves is essentially what I'm saying. Excuse me. Been talking 45 minutes or 48 minutes, excuse me. But yeah, so they played really, really well. Again, I broke down kind of in depth of more of this North Carolina game. If you want to rewind this earlier in this episode, but yeah, really good stuff out of Dawn Staley and her squad. The freshmen are just unbelievable, and it's crazy how she keeps replicating the success. It's crazy. Bird to Fly asks, what is this? All this talk about CMB being able to hit the 3 ball. If he's got it in the arsenal, where is it, or where was it this season? I think it was just more of him being selective in his shots. One of those things, right? The development of a young player. I don't think he was ready to pull it out in a game, but I think it's something he's been working on. And to go back to Martin's point, I think that's something CMB is going to, pull up the season with. You will see him pull up with a 3 ball, right? I think you will have a he'll pull up next season with a 3 ball, and people are going to be like, oh my gosh, where is it? So I think it'll come in more this next season, and I think the whole plan, and kind of to Martin's point too, just a three level scorer. I don't know if you can afford to take CMB out of the post if you get that big MFer, like I was saying, just somebody who can go play it like a bad MFer big. Then I think you can kind of transition CMB into more of that, 3-level score, but I don't necessarily know if you run him on the wing. But yes, I think for a shooting guard, Martin, you need somebody like a Talon Cooper that can just shoot the three, like a 3-and-D, like almost like a Patrick Beverly, but a little bit more offensive pop because. And again, you're going to have to. Talon Cooper was a perfect example of what Lamont Paris wants his point guards to be. I think that's exactly just point guard with length and that can play defense, right? And Michi, if you could add a little bit of length to Michi's game, right? I think it'd be the same way. But three level scorer for sure, stop and pop, similar to Talon Cooper, right? To re-up because I think Talon played that role perfectly. Long guard, and so we'll see. Hutch to South Carolina's first doubleheader of the season at Founders really helped the team win, and as many base hits as they had with as many homers. Yeah, absolutely. They got on base, they brought them home. That was one of the bigger stories for this baseball team. Kind of entering this weekend, leaving people on base, right? So they shored up that and left no doubt on the base pass. Hitting wise, they were frustrated. When this baseball team gets frustrated, man, and I'm sure they're sick of us talking about it in the media too. Like, where's this team? This team can't hit. This team can't hit. This team can't hit, right? And it just circles and it spirals around you. So to have a wake up weekend like you did this weekend, I think it was great. It was fantastic. So yeah, Hutch, definitely appreciate you tuning in again. But so yeah, really, really, really good stuff out of men's basketball. Again, final thoughts on that season. They were playing with house money, right? It was the baby stages of the program to do a complete and utter 180 like you did from last year. And again, last year just things weren't on track, right? You had a lot of talent, but again, you just couldn't get things on track. I think this year was the complete opposite. You got things on track early. You had the guys with again a little bit more talent too on the roster. Just playing with house money, and it took you as far as you did. You raised a lot of eyebrows, and this team. I would much rather have this team, right? Looking back at it from the lens that you're at, and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with this. Make the waves that they did during the regular season, and then kind of be a mediocre team throughout the regular season, make it a tournament, and then be a Cinderella, right? I guess a Cinderella, if you will. And now, sure, but if you're one of those teams, you're not going to win the national championship. The regular season and everything that you built, right? In a flash in the pan, I mean, win a game and exit, right? An upset and exit. That's not as fun as continuing to build a program, similar to what Lamont's doing here. When do these live streams happen? It's a new Hutch. So this is my show, the walkthrough. Usually I'm with a guest, but again, these last couple weeks have been hectic for us since I've been running Nashville coverage with just everyone at GC. But so I believe the full schedule, we have the GC live. Mike Yuva is live on Mondays. We're also live on Tuesday afternoons for Talking Tuesdays. Jack Viltry and I are live typically on Wednesdays for Foul Balls, our baseball show. Our basketball show, we will probably continue. We'll have a little bit of a women's basketball focus with that on Thursday. And then be sure, obviously, on the weekends, we have post-game shows as well. All of it on the Gamecock Central YouTube. Like, subscribe, stay up with us. But yeah, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, Mike Yuva, we all do a lot of stuff on the GC YouTube page. They're all great, my favorite coworkers type stuff. So it's all good stuff. And, you can also turn notifications on, figure out whenever we're going live. Certainly helps. Again, whenever Chris and Wes are live, they have good stuff during the week. With GC Live as well. So there is a little bit we can talk about with spring football here. I do have a couple clips, Shane, last week. There is some there's again continuing of spring football leading into this week. So I think there's a lot of question marks going in. I think one of them is the freshman quarterback Lenore Sellers. And so Shane Beamer in last week, I'm sure you guys might have seen the clips. If not, here it is again. Coach Beamer talked in length about Lenore Sellers. he's being leaned on, I guess, as the favorite coming out of camp. In terms of just everyone to win out that starting quarterback job. So entering spring football, here's what Shane Beamer has to say about his sophomore quarterback.
With all those guys, and from that standpoint, and then Lenore's difference. Probably just the willingness to speak up and try and show some leadership. Last year at this time, he was the new guy, and even during the season, Spencer was the quarterback, and Lenoris wasn't really a vocal guy where he was going to speak up and try and lead the group. He's taken on more of a role where he has spoken up more, whether it be in team meetings or outside on the field or trying to organize the offense to throw and things like that on their own. He's taken more of a leadership role from that standpoint, and that's probably the biggest thing. But Lenoris is a guy you don't notice him, but you notice him, if that makes sense. He's the same guy day in, day out. He works really, really hard. I was in the weight room this morning at 6:20, and we didn't have anything until 7:30 as a team, but he was in the weight room just trying to get some extra work in this morning before practice even started, just stretching and stuff like that. And that's just who he is.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want right out of your sophomore quarterback. Somebody who's starting to take more of a leadership role. It's exactly what you want. Exactly what you want, making the first steps to be your starting quarterback. And again, personally, I think he's going to win the job out, and rightfully so, as you would expect him. How do you think the spring game will go here coming in about a month or two, maybe what to expect? I think the spring game is going to go great. If this is going to be your first time at South Carolina or at a South Carolina football game, the spring game's a little precursor to what's in store for the fall. But I think it'll be good. People turn out for the spring game. It's unlike anything I've seen up north. Even at Notre Dame at the Blue Gold game, the Garnet and Black spring game kind of blows that out of the water, I would say, up at Notre Dame. But again, it'll be good. Hey man, Caden asks, "Hey man, do you know what Ethan Petrie's walk-up song is?" Yeah, it's "Check Yourself." It's an Ice Cube song. So if you go to Ice Cube. But yeah, and also too, I asked this on Twitter. If you guys want to sound off in the comments, might as well. It's the end of the stream here, so we can have a little fun. What would your walk-up song be? Again, what would your walk-up song be? Let me know. I can't play anything because it's YouTube, right? And I'll get the stream taken down. But again, it'll be fun to throw out some stuff there as again finish things up. But no, Ethan Petrie's song is "Check Yourself" by Ice Cube. And this so, but. If you also hit me with your walk-up song takes, always fun to figure that out too. But again, football, yeah. So Lenore Sellers, really, really, really good stuff. And so that's exactly what you want to see. Baby steps, and we'll find out more from Coach Beamer and stuff this week. Just kind of how Lenore is progressing. Another person that has storylines kind of entering the spring. Is Nicholas Harbor. Nicholas Harbor is currently sprinting along with doing all football activities, which is crazy because you have a wide receiver who is an Olympic level sprinter on your team. And he's doing, sprinter things. And Bird25 says, "I hope Rocket Sanders is healthy by the start of the season." Yeah, I do too. Right. There are a couple guys that are banged up, but Rocket's one of them. And I would assume he would be healthy. William says, "Queen, we will rock you" for a walk-up song. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I've had a lot of good ones on Twitter as well. Finally had a Fleetwood Mac song finally recommended. So I can't remember who recommended that, but whoever you are, you know who you are. Good stuff. Finally got to Fleetwood Mac because I think Fleetwood Mac holds the top of it. The most, I guess, walk-up songs in my mind. But again, Bird25 would be great to get Rocket back. Hutch says, "I realize Ethan Petrie has 9 home runs and Messina is 8. Petrie is up." Yeah, and these guys are going to duke it out all season, right? These guys love to swing for power. It's one of the identities of this South Carolina baseball team, and so they're going to keep duking it out. It'll be interesting to see who, I guess, a little great race of Carolina or great race of Columbia, in terms of home runs. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. To answer the walk, like I've thought about this a lot. I think for the walk-up song question, like for me, it would probably be, I was leaning towards Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers because I feel like you get an SEC crowd in there. The Rooster was another good one, I think, for South Carolina. You can't really go wrong. Can't imagine that you'd have a hard time getting the crowd into that one. What else do I like? I think Iron Man by Black Sabbath would be a good one. Just that guitar ripping in is good. Stuck in the Middle with You would be another good one. But yeah, I don't know. Just rambling off the top of my head there. Let's see. Anything else? Oh yeah, so Nick Harbor. Yeah. Nick Harbor. I do have one more clip before we wrap things up, but this was really cool. I thought this was interesting. Shane Beamer last week talking about Nick Harbor and his schedule, coming back and forth from football to track.
Shane, what's the update? Nick Carver, what's his plans for spring? And do you have an update, Rocket Sanders?
Yeah, dang it, I screwed it up again. I brought the injury report in here and totally forgot to go over it, so that's my fault. First of all, with Nick, his focus, his primary focus right now is track and trying to win championships for our track team. And then there's also the Summer Olympics coming up as well, which I do believe is a very real possibility for him potentially. We'll see how outdoor track goes. So football-wise, track is the priority, but he will be with football when it doesn't interfere with track and when it doesn't interfere with his class schedule. And so what does that look like? That means class schedule-wise, Tuesdays and Thursdays, not to give you Nick's entire academic calendar here for the spring semester, but Tuesdays and Thursdays he has class, but he's in the morning, but he's able to be with us most of the morning. So he was out there today. He was in meetings this morning at 7:30, and he'll be able to be with us, on his own when it doesn't interfere with track. So he was out there today for the most part watching, and he was, during a lot of the practice parts, he was standing next to me, getting the signal from the sideline or listening to the play call in the huddle, and then telling me what his assignment would be on that play and all that. And then also on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday days, the days that we don't practice, it's kind of the same thing. He's got a little bit more of a heavy class load on those days, or he may be traveling with track on those days. So when he can be with us, and we want him over here, and he's going to plan to be here, and when it doesn't interfere with track or class. But we won't have him out there necessarily practicing and getting hit where it prevents him from running in a track meet on Saturday. We don't want that. But like I told him today on the field when we were talking, I want him to be able to be the greatest track student athlete he can be this spring and win championships but I also want him to get better as a football player without it taken away from track. So I think we have a good plan. We've communicated with the track staff. We met back in December, I guess, about Nick's schedule in the spring and whatnot. So, and there was.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's crazy schedule for Nick Harbor, right? And Bird Two Fly says, I know there's not really a good answer right now off the top of the head, who could you see being wide receiver one going into next season? Really good question. And again, that's kind of why I brought up Harbor, because again, it leans into some of the hypotheticals, entering spring football. Everyone wants to know. It's like, all right, who's looking good, right? Who can we say that we can kind of pencil in, right? And I think, you make a good point, Bird Two Fly here. It's really hard because I think this wide receiver room is kind of inexperienced at South Carolina. I think really the only experienced one at the University of South Carolina is Nick Harbor. And so I don't know if Nick's ready to be a wide receiver one at this point. And that's been kind of the vibe throughout, South Carolina football, and everyone that I've talked to is that Nick is almost he's on the doorstep, right? And so they went and they got a bunch of guys that are good mentors and again veterans in the transfer portal, right? And Gage Larvadain and Amari Huggins, Bruce, and then Jared Brown, yeah, exactly, from Coastal. So I think wide receiver one out of those, it will be one of those three between Larvadain, Jared Brown, and I guess Nick Harbor and Amari Huggins. Bruce is certainly going to make a case too. So I think it's between the three transfers realistically, but if Harbor's not in the mix already, which I certainly think he can compete, but I think I'd have to give the early nod to Jared Brown, I guess. That's kind of where I'm at right now. The early nod to Jared Brown. I think Larvadane is a really good player. I slept on one from the MAC, but there's a lot of competition, and I did want to say this too. I think Mazio Bennett could see some playing time. I really do. I really do. I think he looked great in practice. Definitely put on some weight. Gotten a little bigger, gotten a little stronger. And so it's gonna be interesting to see who winds up as the number one in that spot, but we'll see how that goes. So Lamont Dandy on my walk-up song question. In the Air Tonight, fantastic. The drums going in. Doo-doosh, doo-doosh, yes. Chef's kiss. Good one. Love it. And then sorry. RL says track speed on a football field can be fun with QBs that can chuck the ball. Yeah, and we know that Lenore's can chuck the ball. And I still think too, we saw what Lenore's legs are doing too, right? Like just breaking tackles. He's got, he runs a ball almost like a running back because he's got the size to. But I could see some speed in some kind of handoff option, running to see just kind of backfield kind of stuff. You can really get a little bit of Debo stuff. And I mean, if Harbor's big enough to run in that Debo role, so why the hell not? Why not run him in some fun stuff like that? It will take time for Nick to develop though because of his other priorities. That I think a little bit, but it's mostly. I mean, just got to watch out for the hands, right? He just needs to catch the football. It's the biggest thing that Nick Harbor's got to worry about, and he's got raw talent, he's got raw speed, but can he just make play? We can make athletic plays, lobbing him up the football down the field, but so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Hutch says question: with Sean Elliott back at South Carolina, do you think football will be a better wide receivers coach? So Sean Elliott's actually coaching tight ends. He'll certainly help out with the offensive line as well. But Mike Furry, former Detroit Lion and leader of the NFC in receiving yards, and also former head coach at Limestone, was his previous stop. Mike Furry's the wide receivers coach. I think he's doing a fantastic job. We'll get to hear from him this week. As I think we get all of the assistants, maybe not, but we get a good amount of them this week. So we'll have all of that coverage here live on Gamecock Central as well. RL says, I'm wanting to see what the weights and heights are from spring. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the growth stuff, they tweet some of that out. I haven't seen anybody put any numbers out in terms of the growth or stuff like that. How guys progressed in terms of height and weight. But I think I mean I haven't seen a comprehensive thing, but I think the weights and stuff are just for the spring. But RL, it'll be really interesting to see the difference between from the spring to the summer. When we get to August, these guys are going to be bigger. They're going to be leaner, depending on where they're at. Right? Do they need to bulk up? Do they need to slim it down? And they're also trying to figure this out as football players too, right? There's a couple guys on this roster. It's like they're experimenting. Hey, put on some weight. Maybe they don't play as heavy, right? And so, there will be some tinkering there for sure, as well. But yeah, Hutch, it was something there. But yeah, I do think they'll be better. Yeah, 100%. I think the way that and James Coley leaving to go to Georgia at wide receivers coach is unfortunate. But Mike Furry is it's a fantastic you can't even really call it a backup, right? Because sure, Coley was hired and again that's just how it went. But to get a guy like Mike Furry, who again we mentioned a couple weeks ago that Shane talked about it in his presser that Mazio Bennett and guys that Furry recruited or had conversations with saw him in the building and got excited. So I think that's one big step. And again, we'll get to hear from Coach Furry this week. But yeah. So it says for the ladies, how good is Carolina's next opponent? Potential matchup. Who matches up the best? So RL said they have the winner of Indiana and Oklahoma. I'm got to check the score of this game. They might play. I believe they play tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Indiana, Oklahoma. Because I don't think they're playing currently. I'm double checking on this, and then we'll wrap things up here in a little bit. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in. We are also live on the GC YouTube channel for those of you guys on Twitter. Definitely check us out. So let's see. Sunday, is there not? I don't think there is. No, so there's not. They don't play tonight. They're playing tomorrow. And who do they match up better with? Well, I mean, I guess Oklahoma, but I think they match up well with anybody, realistically. So they play tomorrow. Yeah. So the boring answer is they match up well with anybody, but I guess kind of looking into it here, just quickly, Oklahoma, they're the number 18 team in the country, right? 20, if they would enter at 24-12, they first or the best team in the Big 12, which is huge. They're led by Skylar Vann, a forward, 15 points a game. So that's what Oklahoma has going. And so Van forward, and then Peyton Verhulst, 29 minutes a game. She's their primary scorer for the guard, 12.8 points per game. So Oklahoma is pretty darn good. Let's take a look at Indiana real quick. And I wish I could pull this up, but my laptop, I have to charge my laptop, so can't really get the monitor cooking at the moment. But let's take a look at Indiana women's basketball really quickly. What do we got? And this game is in Indiana too. So they're the 14 seed, second seed in the Big Ten. Indiana 25-5 with wins over, or they lost to Iowa, lost to Ohio State, and then lost to Illinois and Michigan. So I mean, realistically, I think Oklahoma is the better, I guess, matchup, right? In terms of the better team, but I think that if they're going to be fine either way, realistically. But I think out of the two, who do you don't want? That's IU, probably the better team just overall. But again, I think they match up. If they now Aret to close things off here, like if they played like they did in the first half today, they can beat anybody. And I think they're starting to get into the groove where like they can, tap into that a little bit quicker, right? And that's the scary part of this team, right? They can tap in, just go beast mode whenever they need to. And so it'll be interesting to see. But again, appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Another big show. Again, talked about all things Gamecock baseball. If you missed it, you can always check us out on YouTube. This thing will be on all of our podcast platforms shortly as well. So again, appreciate everyone tuning in. Subscribe, like, do all the fun stuff on Gamecock Central YouTube page. We've got it all there, all the coverage this week. We've got baseball, more basketball, and then obviously spring football. So plenty of coverage this week. Stay tuned right here, Gamecock Central. We've got it all for you this week. But hour and 12 minutes, pretty good. William, yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in, man. These Sunday night shows have been a little marathon, just me by myself. Appreciate you guys tuning in because like it's been fun just chatting, man, talking, streaming, talking ball. Yeah, absolutely. RL, yeah, man, thanks for tuning in. Always appreciate it. And just a little Sunday night talking ball, man. That's all we can do, and it's not a problem going live on Sunday night. It's the best time to do it. So recapping the weekend. So yeah, again, appreciate everyone tuning in. This has been GC Live, the walkthrough. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Have a great week. And I'll see you guys live later this week. So appreciate it again. Have a good night.